ourselves. Okay, LDG is an independent, all-volunteer, nonprofit 501c3 organization. We are open to adults of all genders and backgrounds. Everyone involved tonight, presenters, volunteers, the board, donate their time and skills. I want to thank the volunteers, Jay Alexander, Van, Steve Wozniak, Dan Schubert, Eric Will, Flicker, and Ryan Matson. Yes. Thank you to SF Catalyst. If you'd like to host your own party or event here, go to leatheralliance.org for more info. We'd also like to thank Mistress for their generous support and congratulate them on 40 years. And while I'm not doing event announcements tonight because there's just so much stuff, we'd be here all night. They are having a party at Powerhouse after this. For more information on what's going on this week, go to Race's Bar and andymatic.com, and it has a great listing of everything that you can do to get in trouble this weekend. So I read from the volunteers list. If you want to help out, check out sfldg.org. There you can sign up for the volunteer mailing list, our newsletter, donate, or check out future and past programs. On that note, we're still looking for volunteers for our closed check at the fair this Sunday. We'll be at 10th Street. You can sign up with me after the program. And it's one of our biggest fundraisers. It's fun. People approach you, take off their clothes, give you money, and it helps support this excellent program. And now, without further ado, we return to our regularly scheduled program.
Well, thank you, Al. Yeah, I'll just give another shout out for the clothing check. That's actually one of my favorite things that we do at LDG. If you're an introvert like me, which I know looks weird because I'm actually sitting up here, but I really am introverted, except in short bursts, it's a really amazing way to do the fair. You have this nice barrier in front of you, and people pass you by, and you get to experience it without being like the crush of all of those people. So it's a lot of fun, and we provide nice cool drinks and private bathrooms. So yeah, it's a cool thing. So cool. Thank you all for being here, and Cal, thank you for staying here.
Oh, this is awesome. Like I said, I gave everybody the chance to have my mic off for the second round. They elected to have it on, so
Yep.
thank you.
Yep, never met your own risk.
If something on LDG, if I may. So I spoke earlier about moving here in 2012 and being very naive and having so much to learn about fetish in the kink community. I remember being in Sacramento in 2012 and learning about LDG and watching one of these live streams at home and just being wowed by the conversation, and then being able to come to these and learning about a lot of the different kink practices that are out there. This is so incredibly valuable. And it's like stepping through the looking glass for me, that kid from small town Minnesota who arrived here with so much to learn. What an honor it is for me to be here in this space with you right now. That means a lot to me, so thank you for having me.
I'm so happy they're here. You are, from both sides of that equation, you are why we do this. Both people that can see this, and then people that can get back to the community. So feel free to turn off your phone if it's actually on right now. Just a small shaming. If you're into shaming, I hope that I just gave you a good kick. Cool, so when last we left, oh good, you gotta deal with your password now too. Do you want to just read it out over the internet?
Password 1, 2, 3. Give me 1 second here. Awesome. So I figured I would veer the conversation away from Gear 365 real quick and show you some slides from our latest trip to Mount Rushmore.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. South Dakota, where I've always wanted to go.
Oh no, we went to Wild Drug.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta go there.
Yeah, they have great deals.
Oh, the apple fritters. You know.
They make them right there at the
bars.
bars.
So we had started to talk about Gear 365 before this, and I'm really hoping that this is not going to bore people, but this is not my movement. This is our movement. This is an entire planet full of people with gear fetishes, with desires, who want to feel safe to be who they truly are. And so I've done a lot of videos on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all these platforms about getting out there and being your true geared self. But I thought for this, when I found out that you would ask me to come and speak about Gear 365, rather than me telling you about the impact of Gear 365 and what it means to be able to express yourself, whatever it is you're into, whoever it is you are, whatever part of the world you live in, I wanted the world to be able to explain this to you. So if you are watching this live at home, I know this is going to be kind of boring to watch, so you can see this on YouTube if you research or search for Cal Ryder, or you can just watch right here, as long as you promise to stay with us the whole time. But do you want to hit play? Hope everybody can hear.
Who's the high end?
Hi guys.
G'day.
Greetings.
Hello everyone.
Hello, this is Suzanne van der Laar speaking from the Netherlands to you.
Hello Cal. And everybody else that's members of Gear 365.
Hi, Rubber and Leather here, Blood 3043.
Hello everyone, my name is Kate from Brisbane, Australia.
Hey, what's up? Hunter here. So why does gear matter? It matters because this is my first leather shirt. I've had it for 3 weeks about. I just got those pants 10 minutes ago from the post. When I was putting that shirt on for the first time, I was just realizing, wow, where have you been all my life?
I'm wearing my two favorite pieces of leather. My mirror cap and my jacket. What makes me feel empowered when I wear them? It's strength, it's beauty, and how it feels. And also, how damn good I look wearing them.
I'm Miss Leather Netherlands 2019. I'm the very first Miss Leather in Europe and in the Netherlands. For me, wearing my gear makes me feel who I am. For me, wearing my gear is part of who I am. It's part of Suzanne. It's part every time again when I smell my gear, when I put on my leather jacket, I'm back. I feel safe. I feel home.
From when I was a kid, a child, if I was ever out for like say in the backseat of the family car and road bike was going by, this is what I noticed. Ever since the age of about 4, I've been aware. Before I even knew what sexuality was, before I knew what sex was, this turned me on, this caught my eye, this drew my attention. And it still does today.
I got my first jacket when I was 12. I loved it, the smell, the look, the feel. Its skin became part of me. It truly became a part of my authentic self.
Wearing my gear is part of who I am, it's part of my identity. I've been wearing officially leather for 9 years now, and it just feels exactly who I am. If I wouldn't be able to wear it on a regular basis, I would feel like something's missing in my life.
My leather jacket, Levi's jeans. Recently bought myself cowboy hat. Hopefully I'm not too ridiculous to show it. Biggest fetish is cowboy boots. All those things kind of define me. I'm proud to say define me now.
Gear for me isn't just about what we wear or how we look. Gear for me is more about having a sense of community and having a sense of inclusion and making sure that everybody's included in our community. As a non-binary person, I really particularly encourage other people who don't fit within the mould to actually wear gear and to come to events and to feel like they're part of a community, a part of something that's much bigger than us as individual people.
I've been asked, what does wearing leather means to me and how does it feel? It feels like I was born for it because it fits me like a second skin, and it makes me feel part of a greater community.
Being tethered to a community is so important. So when I put this gear on, it's nothing to do with work, it's all to do with fun and being part of something incredible.
Is there one particular reason?
Expressing myself in gear has been hugely important to me because I can be true to myself. I feel fantastic. It's so sexy. The gear makes me feel invulnerable and strong. It allows me to show the world that I'm not afraid to be myself and that I'm proud to be an Irish guy who loves to wear gear.
Expressing myself in gear is so important to me because it not only brings out the sexiness in me, but because it makes me feel like a different, better version of who I am. Before, I was an introvert, but now that I wear gear, I am now more of an extrovert. Hell, I have a helmet and I don't even ride.
I was being told by the people around me that I wasn't very good looking and probably never would be, and I believed it for a long time. Until I discovered something that changed everything, that changed the way I felt about myself. Gear makes me feel sexy. It makes me feel good about the way I am, and it makes me feel like I've changed from that shy little boy who was terrified to step out into the world.
Here I am in my favorite gear, my rubber pewter with my arm here. Rubber being my favorite kind of gear. And me finding expressing myself in rubber is one of the most important things I can do in my life. It allows me to physically, and emotionally just let myself go, express who I really wish I could be, look myself and other people in the eyes and be able to be like, you know what, man, I appreciate you and I love you and I love what you do.
For me, being in gear is important because it allows me to express myself as an individual. Because I refuse to wear Dockers and loafers and golf shirts. It allows me to be who I am in the best way that I can be.
So many things in my fetish life has changed me forever. For so many years I kind of tried to hide myself, but actually I just can't, and no one should ever put that away.
The reason I enjoy wearing my gear is that I feel great in it. Feels like I'm expressing something primal, my authentic self. And besides, it's fun to dress up.
This is not like a costume for me. This is something that is part of who I am.
Wherever you are, whoever you are, whoever you love, you should never be afraid of who you are. Never, ever.
Expressing myself in gear allows me to love myself a little bit more every day, and I think that's why expressing oneself in gear is the most important thing in life.
It feels great, and it gives me the power to take on the world.
Wearing gear truly made a difference in my life.
Now my closet's full of leather jackets and vests and boots. And when I put that on, I feel like my authentic, true self. And now I feel so much more comfortable when I go out in public.
I love gear, and gear loves me right back. It makes me feel sexy, and that's something we should all feel.
My favorite gear is my leather jacket, my lace, my corset, my skirt, and my favorite boots. So for me, leather makes me proud and makes me who I am. So I hope I can help you find who you are and be proud of who you are, because that's all that's leather about. It's a big leather family. So join me.
If you are into leather, rubber, or whatever fetish, wear it with pride, and don't forget that you are beautiful as you are, and being who you are makes you stronger and can help others feel in the same way. So, get 365 all the way.
No fear in gear. So, happy leather all, and g'day from Australia.
Cheers.
and I'm talking to you later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Cal Ryder, once again. And see you soon, guys. Bye.
But that is, I could sit up here for the next hour and talk about the importance of gear fetish and expressing yourselves in gear. But rather than my doing that, I felt it was so important for them to be able to share some of their stories and their experiences with you. And that right there is that is the essence of Gear 365. It is finding the courage to go out into the world and be who you are, whatever that may be, but with pride and with love for yourself and what makes you you. And it's just been, aside from my husband, my friends, my family, the greatest gift I could have ever been a part of is to be a part of this movement. Truly. So it's very special to me, very dear. It takes a lot of work, but it's a dream come true to be able to share this with people. So.
And you just put this call to action out there, and people gave you an incredible amount of themselves.
That here's what I love about this. The world. There are so many magazines and videos and websites depicting fetish, and each of these examples are usually picture-perfect people, models. If it's a gay sex thing, they're usually muscular, you know. And what you saw here were everyday people, just like me, living their lives in gear, finding their sexuality, finding their identity, telling themselves it's perfectly okay to be who you are, and what an amazing thing that is. It's something for everyday people. It's everyday people in gear every day, is what we've been saying. And so I think the reason this has snowballed as quickly as it has, I mean, look at this room alone, and this is just a fraction of the kink community in the Bay Area, right? Multiply that by an entire planet. And yeah, it's something very special.
What I loved was everybody talking about the phrase that came up over and over again was my authentic self, my true skin, feeling powerful and feeling sexy. And being able to hear that from real people, I think, is super powerful. And you get to sort of, you know, you hear that a lot. You're the center of this movement.
What's fascinating about this is as I said before we went to break, I had put this call to action out there on YouTube because these were things I was looking for. People tell me quite a bit, Cal, you seem so confident. You can, like you had mentioned that you're an introvert. I'm extremely introverted. It takes a lot of energy to be on right now, and then believe me, at 11 o'clock tonight, I'll be hiding under my covers and wanting to read a book for the next 3 days.
Rocking in the corner.
But they say you've got so much confidence to go out there in gear and to do all these things, but I'm just as scared as anybody else is. But seeing these examples of people going out there, putting on gear, putting on something that's a little different than the norm, going to the grocery store, it gives me the courage to do that. It's something that was so cool this year is we had a real movement in 2019. I had put this video up there, and he knows. There's this video on my YouTube channel where I'm, you know, all confident. Here I am in gear. I'm flying, you know, to Minneapolis and then to Chicago, and I'm in full leather. I was fucking nervous. Being in Sacramento Airport, going through TSA at 6 in the morning, wearing full leather, you bounce up that, you know, the screening machines. But I have to do this, not because I have to assure myself that so much of the fear that we have is in our own heads. Not all of it. Yes, there are real dangers of, you know, things being said to you or bad things happening out there, but that is so few and far in between. That's going to happen regardless, however you want to live your life. Because of the possibility of somebody making a comment, making a sarcastic joke, or laughing at my expense, that is so minuscule compared to how good it feels to walk through Rayleigh's in Vallejo tonight in leather pants and Daner boots. I wouldn't trade that for the world. And the more I do that, the more other people see that they can do the same thing, and then they share their experiences. So after my video on flying in full leather, God, there had to be at least 100 other people this year that have flown to Berlin and all these places in full rubber, full leather, doing all these things, and it's amazing. It's just, I would love to be on those flights, you know, but it's infectious in the best possible way.
Yeah.
I love it. They inspire me.
I don't normally take away from the presenter, but I'm gonna be a little bit preachy for just a moment, because I love something that you just said, and I think it's really important for people to hear, which is that, you know, a lot of people talk about, well, I don't have a platform, I can't make a point, I can't do anything important, I can't be a leader unless I have a leather title. And from what I understand, you don't have a leather title, do you?
I do not.
No, what you did was you found something that you were interested in and you were passionate about yourself, and you simply put yourself out there, and all of these other interesting people started to follow along with you because what you were doing was interesting and passionate.
Our title holders out there in the communities, where it's a thankless job for one. The standing up and trying to represent an entire community is very hard work. All of our title holders do amazing things. But I have maintained, and I think anybody has the power to affect change in the world, whatever it is you want to do, by just being passionate. You don't have to have a title, you don't have to be the head of a corporation or an elected official to be the change that you want to be. And I simply wanted to feel safer to be who I am. I wanted to feel accepted, and to do that, I need to accept others as they are and let them feel safe. And one other thing, growing up in small town Minnesota when I did, and a lot of us aren't born and raised right here in San Francisco. Some of us are, but a lot of us came from small towns or in places where it wasn't okay to be different or who you were. A lot of us can identify with that. What I love about this is that there are a lot of Gear 365ers who live in parts of the world, even here in the US, where it is not safe to be who they are. It's not safe to go out of the house in gear or identify as somebody in the LGBTQ movement. And yet this gives them a forum to be vulnerable, to be true to themselves, to connect with other people. It's a safe space where we can talk about what's going on in our lives. And although we can't really solve each other's problems, how cathartic it is that we can share that with somebody who's been there. And so it does connect people from all around the world in places where maybe they'll never be able to go out dressed like this. But God, how good it feels to talk to somebody who gets it.
Yeah.
Things I would have loved to have had when I was at that stage of my life.
So talk a little bit about some of the topics that come up. You've created this amazing, safe space for people who enjoy a lot of the things that you like to enjoy. I imagine you're hearing all sorts of amazing stories.
You know what's been special about this is when Gear 365 was starting, I had opened up an awful lot about my desire to find a chosen family and kind of the mourning of what I had had and trying to move beyond that and find new kink relationships. I talk an awful lot about our marriage. People always think, you know, they see Scott and I in these leather photos and do all of these things. We're a married couple with issues of our own, insecurity. Every relationship goes through that. I've opened up about depression and anxiety and not having a lot of experience with certain things in the world of sex. But the more I've opened up and talked about my vulnerability or inexperience or fears or struggles, other people have felt safe to do that too. And so we have had so many people open up about their struggles with depression, people who feel like they don't have the right body to wear gear, a lot of people who are, you know, they're height conscious, they're weight conscious, they don't have muscles, or they're not the definition of being that perfect gear god that we've all grown up seeing. Relationship issues, fears of people finding out what your desires are, and kind of holding their hands and reassuring them that you're not alone. Everyone, and that's what I think is so interesting about this, is people think that I've got all this confidence and I look amazing, and my God, my weight, I've bounced up and down in weight and struggle with I am embarrassed to take my shirt off, and I was terrified the night I was in this room years ago and was fogged for the first time. It's scary to do that, but we open up about these things, and it's a very human conversation. We allow ourselves to be vulnerable, and that's a wonderful feeling to know that you can just be real and yet still be a person into kink and fetish.
What you have is a genuine community, and it's this community that simply started by you putting a video out there on New Year's Eve, and all of a sudden you've created or you know, sort of magnetized all of these people from various places in the world into this community that has a whole bunch of different channels. Where is Gears 365 manifesting, and how does it manifest in different ways on those channels?
It's everywhere. It's predominant. So Instagram blows me away. We have 32,000 Instagram posts for Gear 365 now. It just blew me. It's an app where you share photos, and you can, you know, write whatever you want with the photo, and then you use hashtags to, you know, associate yourself with whatever the topic may be. So if you use hashtag Gear 365, if you go on Instagram grocery store where they're doing this, Facebook, we've got 5,000 members in our two different groups. We have two different Facebook groups for Gear 365. There's a pansexual group that's for everybody, and then we have a men's discussion group, and that it's just been kind of a safe space for predominantly gay men to talk about fetish.
Mm-hmm.
But between the two groups, there's so many diverse conversations for everybody.
Yeah. So you've got Instagram, you've got a couple of groups on Facebook.
YouTube, I forgot to mention YouTube.
Yeah.
That's the thing, I'm not the only one doing the YouTube. I've got my channel on there, but there are a lot of other people who go out there and they have their YouTube vlogs, and they'll talk about their experiences in gear or overcoming something. And it's just powerful. If you search Gear 365, and you'll see a number of different things out there on YouTube with it too. But just even on Google search, you'll see blogs and things about it. So it's pretty amazing.
And so this community is manifesting in all of these different channels, and now you find yourself leading this. You are moderating this.
I try to.
What does that look like? I mean, that's a lot of people to moderate.
You know what the hardest thing, what's wonderful about it is it has snowballed so much. I don't need to be present in every conversation anymore. Originally I did. I feel like I kind of needed to help, you know, just here's what this is, and let's get the conversation going. But there are weeks, I was just home in Minnesota for 10 days, and my parents are going through a lot of challenges right now, so I needed to just turn that off. My God, it keeps going, and people are sharing their experiences and all these things, and the world continues, and I don't need to be a part of it anymore.
Yeah.
The hardest thing is, for me personally, I love to open up about what I'm going through online. I've truly found the more I share myself with the world, the more the world gives to me in return. But where I struggle is having a full-time job and a marriage and friendships and a house I'm trying to, you know, maintain, and a real need to be in all these other places. There are so many messages from people who are going through a lot of different things, and I try really hard to be responsive to them all, but I can't every single time. And ultimately I will let somebody down because I didn't see a message or respond in a timely manner, and it's heartbreaking to me. every time that happens. It's just keeping up with the messages is the hardest part. The groups kind of run themselves now.
Yeah.
But I just don't want to let anybody down. I'll be present for them, but it's hard.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of people. And talking about not being in every conversation, I imagine some posts go up that might cause you some problems, occasionally being what we're into.
It's usually whenever there's a post that is flagged or some sort of issue, it's usually the first thing I see on my phone at like 6:55 in the morning, like member reported content, or this post was flagged, or this member was banned, or this or that. And the issue is, I try to run it honestly like a 12-step group. We keep politics out of this. We try to keep it about the subject at hand, about improving ourselves. But ultimately, those lines will get crossed. And the thing about the platforms that we use, the community standards with spiritual, it's very mental, but it is a sexual thing. And so people will post sexual content in these groups, and it will cause things to become an issue. And I have to constantly police that. And that's hard, because you don't want to stop somebody from expressing themselves sexually, but you do have to live in these rules. And my own Instagram page was pulled down about 2 months ago, and thank you for helping me with that. I don't post sexual content on mine. Mine is a lot of leather photos, a lot of gear photos, and a lot of sharing my experiences in gear, but it was a real shock to me to wake up one morning and my Instagram was gone. And I had violated some sort of a community standard, but I pushed back. And I expressed my look through my posts. They may cross a line. I may talk about domination or submission every 10th post, but 9 out of 10 posts are trying to inspire people or to get people to open up. And I cannot see how wearing leather or wearing rubber or pup play or whatever it may be could possibly go against a community standard. This isn't sexual. This is self-expression. A real win, but I still haven't been able to figure that one out, what I had done wrong, but it's been prevalent within the community.
Yeah. But second favorite subject, FOSTA SESTA. This has been, it's been this sort of slow vice, clamping down on absolutely everything, and that's where. Yeah. Yeah.
6:55 at night.
And on Facebook and Instagram, that's one we used to broadcast directly to Facebook, and we decided that it was not going to be safe for us to do so anymore because they were really clear about it didn't even have to look like sex; it just had to be sexy, and they could consider that a violation.
I started this thing on Gear 365 called the War on Crotches because we had this issue where if you had your hand on, at all, you didn't even have to do anything remote. And I hate to say that, but this is the playground that we have to play in.
Well, and unfortunately, it's not just at your own risk; it's at the risk of the channel and sometimes the community, which means you sometimes have to be bad and do bad things.
Quite a few times, but I think more so people have become used to that, and that's kind of calmed down a little bit. But a few 6 to 10 months ago, that was a pretty pervasive issue.
Yeah. And that's why we're on YouTube now. Hopefully that wasn't something weird going on there.
Did you notice it was perfect timing? As soon as gone.
It really was. So you mentioned a few minutes ago we were talking about the different channels that Gear 365 is on, that you've got a couple of different Facebook groups.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about how that came to be.
This is, I will admit, this started so quickly and it snowballed so fast. I will be the first to admit what I don't know. And there's a lot of things I don't know. And I was handed a microphone, which is an amazing gift, and I never want to screw that up. But I spoke to what I knew. So my initial videos and addresses used a lot of pronouns geared toward men. Gear guys, or come on guys, let's get into gear. I spoke when I was used to being around gay men into gear. And maybe 5 months into Gear 365, the group had already had maybe 2,000 members, and we just hit that milestone. And the first non-male member was added to the group. A woman was added to the group. And that was exciting. This is awesome. I'm glad this is catching on. But the moment that happened, it blew up in a pretty ugly way. And this poor woman was subjected to some pretty harsh comments. A lot of supportive ones, but almost instantly there was this divide that was about ready to bring Gear 365 down, and I had no idea what the hell to do. This movement had had such positive momentum, and so many lives are being changed by this, and so quickly. Some very prolific female title holders in the community became aware of Gear 365 and what this poor woman had done, and rightfully so, jumped on her bandwagon to support her. But we became this battleground for same-sex spaces, being inclusive of everybody, and I didn't want this for our group. We shouldn't be this way. In the very first video I posted on YouTube, it was a call to action for all of us to be free to be ourselves. But the argument was, there were a lot of men that was in this group that found the security to take some of these steps because they were doing so among other men, and they were afraid of losing that space. But I don't want, there should be nobody, I knew what it was like to grow up and feel like an outsider and not fit in and feel like something, nobody should have to feel that way. And so we created a men's only group and clearly made the core Gear 365 group a place for everybody. And I will be, the most important thing to me is, it is a lot of work to run two groups. And I still don't think it's the right answer. I just want every single person out there, no matter what kind of gear you're into, what your background is, Gear 365 isn't just an LGBTQ movement. It's not based on your orientation, your gender identification, whether you're non-binary, trans. It's a movement to allow you to express what makes you you. And everybody needs a place to do that. So I think we found the best of both worlds, because I see the importance of both spaces. And I think we've created that. And if that changes down the road, it'll change down the road. If there are other Gear 365 groups that need to be there, a women's group or other backgrounds, then let's do it. I just, at the end of the day, all I care about is that everybody feels like they belong. And that's a hard thing to balance. It's hard to please the entire world, but we do what we can. But it was, I immediately, from that moment, and once I took a few moments to see what all these other people were going through, and I realized my speech was exclusive. I didn't intend for it to be, but you have this awakening. You realize, I do have to be mindful of my pronouns. I do need to be careful of my speech so that what I'm saying is meaningful to as many people as possible. Because I know that's how I'd want to be treated, you know? Yeah. So it was a hard thing to get through, but we made it, and both groups have just continued to grow from there. And I think no matter who you are, you still get something very beneficial out of them. So.
Yeah, you're never going to please everybody, but it sounds like you're approaching this openly and honestly, and kind of making this a learning and a teaching experience.
Just everybody needs a space where they feel like they can be them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I love that. So maybe talk a little bit about. Let's get people involved.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit, like, what advice would you give somebody who, you know, wants to get involved, maybe not even necessarily in a more formal way with the group, but just, I want to incorporate more gear into my life. What does that look like? What's that possible?
This is a conversation I have every single day. Believe it or not, and I'm not exaggerating this, every single day somebody messages me and say, Cal, I will never I will never get to the point where you are, where I feel comfortable doing this in public. You don't have to. You really don't have to. I don't wear full gear every single day. I'd love for you to think that I do, but God, there's something to be said about either walking around the house naked or having a cotton party after, like Folsom, the day after Folsom. My gear's going to be thrown in my closet. Wear a wristband. Wear a pair of boots. Wear a pair of sexy underwear. Wear a pup hood. Wear a collar. Wear something. Anything. Whether it's hidden or not. I think it's extremely sexy to wear like a rubber shirt or a harness or something under your work shirt. People don't necessarily have to know you're into something. It's about you embracing that side of yourself. So if you want to get more involved, if you want to embrace your gear fetish, that side of yourself a little more, I will never ask you to walk down the street in full gear, in a full rubber suit. If you want to, if you get to that point, that's awesome. But what I will ask you to do is to remove the taboo effect of wearing a simple pair of gloves. There are a lot of people, and this was one of the arguments I had to make last year when we were going through the kind of the gender divide. We're not talking about people who are going to be in the new Drummer magazine spread. We're talking about people who are quite literally afraid to put on a pair of gloves and go outside because they're afraid somebody's going to find out their secret. Getting them to just take that first step. And I think the reason that is prevalent, and Scott and I have been here, we do sexualize our gear. I have since I was 12 years old. This is a big thing for me. So I assume if I wear a pair of boots out of the house, somebody's going to associate that with sex, which is awesome if you're into it, but I certainly don't need everybody in the world to necessarily know that. We have to remove that fear. It's just a pair of gloves. It's just a pair of boots. It's a pair of underwear. It's a corset. It's a harness. People don't necessarily have to see it. Just step one is to remove illogical fear. So, and that's hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
But people get there. He and I mean, we're the poster children of full leather. Well, second to you, of course, my dear. He's a good friend and neighbor of ours. He and I have felt the same way many times going out in full gear in Sacramento. We constantly are checking our confidence. And that same video where I'm flying in full leather that's got all these views on YouTube, he knows the second I turned off the camera, oh my God, what have I done for the next 12 hours? I'm going to be looking like I'm out of the Village People and I have no access to clothes, you know? Glenn Hughes, but I had to push myself to do it.
Yeah.
But
so what's the call to action?
I would say whether you ever join the Facebook groups or Instagram, whether you ever get on social media or not, is irrelevant. The call to action I would have for anybody in this room, out there, life is short. My God, life is short. And there is no reason to live in fear, to let fear stop you from being what makes you you. So, check your fear and do it anyway. Truly, do it anyway. Push yourself. The same way I was terrified when I walked in this room 5 years ago for the first time. And I believe it or not, there are a lot of people I've met in this room, and I've been terrified the first times we've had conversations. You're laughing back there. Our first conversation up there, I was terrified. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. You know? But you have to put yourself there or you will never experience it. So whatever that may be for you, do it. And I think what you're going to realize is this euphoric feeling like, my God, that wasn't near as bad as I thought it was going to be. The world didn't end. I wasn't crucified. It felt pretty fucking amazing. Really. And when we landed in Chicago in full leather, I was a totally different person than the person I was when I left in Sacramento. It's freeing. So just face your fear and do it. You're going to be surprised what the outcome is. So,
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Colorado. We have a few minutes for questions. Questions, anyone? Thoughts, comments, stories? Yes.
It's not really a comment, a question, but a comment. Back in the early days of the internet, when people were typing on phone modems, I put up a few pictures of my personal website of boobs. My husband said to me, "Who's going to look at those pictures?" I found 2 weeks later that over 50% of people coming to the website were looking at those few pictures of boobs. It turned into hot sort of 22 years ago, and at one point I had 37,000 unique visitors a month checking boobs. And I got so many messages from people saying, "I thought I was the only one." But there are thousands of me.
It's amazing. It really is amazing when people have that epiphany that it's a comfort to know you're not alone. And that alone allows you to open up your kinks and your desires and just let go and experience that. And I remember those very early days of the internet too, discovering the photos on Northbound Leather and bootjack.com and all these websites. And it was, back then, the internet was so new and the dial-up modem, I was terrified it was going to be like a long-distance phone bill where you'd see every single website you visited. I didn't know, so I was always like just, ready for that. But I was not smart enough to erase browser history. I didn't even know what the hell a browser was. It was Netscape. But, yes, sir.
So on that plane trip to Chicago, there was certainly strength in numbers, and as there were two of you, it's a bit less intimidating than if you were by yourself. But did you get any comments from anyone around?
So what was just asked was, Bill had just asked, when I was going to Chicago, was there a moment where I found safety in numbers because I traveled with Scott? The answer to that is yes, obviously. You didn't fly in gear, but you were there to kind of talk me off of a ledge. But what was awesome was, that was not the first time I had flown in leather. I flew back to Omaha, Nebraska last year, and I wore Langlet's pants and tall Wesco boots. And I was in Sacramento Airport, and a Southwest employee stopped me, said, "Where did you get those pants? Those are the most beautiful leather pants I've ever seen." And he actually called himself a leather collector. He wanted to know where I got those pants. And we've had like flight attendants and things make comments, but it's been an extremely positive experience. And even going through TSA, and I'm not joking, when you fly in leather or rubber in TSA, you will light up those scanners. They will give you the pat down. As long as you're respectful to what they need to do, they're going to be super respectful to you. And I had a great conversation with the TSA agent about my leathers. He thought it was cool, so it was a very positive experience. But yes.
I love this message of fear pride. As you're wearing it more and more often in your life, does that temper the sexual edge that it brings for you?
That is a great question, and that's one that I've been asked quite a bit. And so he had just asked, as you wear gear more and more in your life, does that kind of dampen your sexual desires with gear? Not really. I think it actually charges me up even more, because it's not a costume anymore. It's actually me being me. And as you saw in these videos up here, it's transformational. So now when I put on that gear and I kind of become a different version of myself, I get to be that person much more often, and that will translate to our relationship, our sexual relationship, or different play scenarios that we have. And one other thing, I don't want to run too late, and I want to make sure there's room for questions, but this has empowered me to do one other thing this year that I never thought would be possible. And that was to come out as a leather man to my loved ones. It was a second coming out completely, but telling them about Gear 365 and I think they were so amazed by this movement that they were so overwhelmed by that they didn't even notice the leather or anything else. They actually thought it was pretty sexy, to be honest, but it also explained a lot to them too. It finally made sense why I was in that leather jacket when I was 7 years old. And why every Christmas from that point forward, all I ever wanted was a leather jacket.
I love that. Time for one more if anybody's got one.
I have a question which may be a little bit off topic,
No,
but
please.
it struck me that Minneapolis and nearby is a center for a lot of very kink media stuff. Is that by accident?
Well, you know what's amazing to me? There is a tremendous kink and queer culture in the Twin Cities. And that has really come about in the last 10 or 15 years. Some very close friends of mine have opened a coffee shop there called Twin Cities Leather and Latte. And it is exactly that. It's a coffee shop / Mr. S Leather. And they make all their own leathers and everything, and it's right there in the heart of Uptown. And it's just, part of me is almost sad that I've moved away and I've left that. But there was this wonderful conversation I had one night in the bar, the Eagle, years ago, where I just kind of admitted for the first time kind of my vulnerability of, I'm shy, I'm nerdy, I don't really know how to make small talk, I'm nervous being here. And they just, no, you're one of us, just be yourself, you're part of this. And I think it's just, the Twin Cities has that very inclusive culture, and I think wherever that exists, that's going to grow. Because you're allowed to be who you are. So.
Well, Cal, thank you very much
Thank you for
sharing
having me.
your